First year I would have been 11 years of age going into that school. I started drinking. By 12 I had developed a love for alcohol. I can remember being in a house party and a row breaking out and me hitting another man over the head with a bottle. We weren't sure if he was alive or dead. I don't care. I lifted the bottle of vodka that I hit him over the head with. It hadn't smashed, and took it up to bed as your man lay down there dead for all I knew. How you doing? My name's Ryan. I'm 33 years old. I'm from a little place called Ballyhagan in Northern Ireland, and I just want to share my testimony and my walk with Christ and what he's done for me in my life. So I grew up the eldest of 4 children, 1 brother and 2 sisters, and I had 2 parents, loving parents, hard-working parents, and I wanted for nothing growing up. But I suppose you can say the enemy had his hand on my shoulder from a very early age. I had a wicked temper, and I didn't know how to deal with that. I would lash out, I would get into fights, and there was just always an anger in me. I couldn't explain it. Primary school, going into the next school, that's when it really started to come out. And it started off with fist fights, and soon fist fights become more extreme. There was weapons involved, and it was just a spiral of violence. I just wasn't happy in myself. So from first year I would have been 11 years of age going into that school, I started drinking. Started drinking alcohol, started smoking. By 12 I had developed a love for alcohol. I can remember going to school on my 12th birthday, and I went and I concocted a mix of 2 types of whiskey and a French brandy. It was absolutely humming, and that was my first experience being paralytic drunk. And it took me away. It took me away from that hate that I had within my heart. This is my new medicine. It's going to numb me. It'll give me confidence, but it'll take away that anger that was in my heart. It wasn't long after that I started taking cannabis in school, after school, before school. It was great at the start, but it bored me, and started moving on to harder drugs. Started moving on to ecstasy, cocaine, different amphetamines, and psychedelics then later on. So at 14 years of age, that's when I really got into my alcohol addiction seriously. Like I said, I would maybe go to school 3 days a month, and the rest of the time I was drinking. And I suppose at about 18, it's probably the first time I prayed a proper prayer sincerely, was for God to take me away. That's where I was just miserable. My early 20s was, in fact, my whole 20s, it was an existence. It was no life. It was a blur. From one week, just ran into the next. I actively tried to take my life. It was probably 3, 4 suicide attempts. I took a cocktail of prescription drugs, alcohol, and it should have been enough to kill 3 people. And for some reason, I woke up. Another time I jumped out in front of oncoming traffic and caused the other car to swerve and mount the other curb. I was brought to hospital for it, and that was the first time I decided I was going to try rehab. I was going to try and beat this addiction. So I went to rehab, and it was a Catholic run rehab, and it was very spiritual. Now it was good, but for me the course was too short. This was in the height of lockdown, and it was a 3-month course, and I sailed through them 3 months. I knew that I was going back out there to just start destroying myself, start wrecking myself right all over again. And I remember getting out on a Friday, and the first thing I did was ring one of my mates and say, right, we're going on it, and went on a 3-4 day bender. Continued destroying myself, acts of extreme violence, me being the perpetrator, me being subjected to. I didn't care. And if you don't care about your own life, you don't hold any reverence or any respect for other people's lives. And it's a horrible way to be, but that's the way I was. I can remember being in a house party and a row breaking out and me hitting another man over the head with a bottle. We weren't sure if he was alive or dead. At one stage we actually thought he was dead, and my first reaction was, I don't care. I lifted the bottle of vodka that I hit him over the head with. It hadn't smashed, and I lifted it and took it up to bed and took it into the bed with me and lay like a baby as your man lay down there dead for all I knew. I didn't care about him. There were several instances like that, getting myself into dangerous situations that no right-minded person would ever involve themselves in. Continued right through to 32 years of age, and I decided I was going to go on a program. My mother told me about it and asked me to come along and see the work that they were doing down there, and I did. They were caring for people in addiction, the homeless, the elderly, people that were just lonely and needed comforted. So I went over on the program, and I didn't complete the program. I'd done 3 months, but over there I found peace, and there was something awoken in me. I was seeing God working through other people, and it lit a fire in me. That's when I started to ask questions and started to seriously consider accepting Jesus Christ as my saviour. So I done 3 months there, and I came home and nearly did the same again. Nearly did the exact same as I'd done before. The last time I was in rehab, I nearly just threw all that hard work away and reverted back to the old man in me. But I didn't. I went to a mission the night of my 33rd birthday. My mother had asked me to go along to it, and I don't know, there was something in me that just said I needed to be there that night. And there was a man giving his testimony, and similar to myself, he had been brought up in the Catholic faith and then had come to Christ, accepted him as his saviour, and it spoke to me that night. That's the night I give my life to Christ. I had 2 birthdays that night. I was born on the 13th of June and I was reborn on the 13th of June, and I'll never forget that night. It humbled me so that I cried tears of joy. Before, I had cried maybe tears of sorrow or tears of anger, but I cried tears of joy. It was amazing. I haven't looked back since. I'm in my church, my Bible studies. I volunteer here with Teen Challenge down in Belfast twice a week. All that sorrow and anger, especially the anger, that just left me so it did. That's not to say the old man in me doesn't knock my shoulder now and again and try to tell me that he knows best. But I know, I just say, get behind me, Satan, because I know when I'm walking with Christ, I'm the man I'm supposed to be. Now what I do is I try and tell everybody, anybody I meet along the way. Doesn't matter if I meet them on the street or old friends of mine or family, I tell them about Christ, because Christ saved me and he can save anyone. If I could go back now and tell that 12-year-old child that going to drink that bottle or try drugs, I would tell him there's a better way.